Hey guys, Martin here, bringing another Dragon Ball Z Dokkan battle video, and so part 3 of the anniversary is obviously underway, as well as the fact that we have the TEQ UI Goku mini celebration launching at the same time. Came out, of course, on Monday morning. However, we do have a bunch of new stuff dropping tomorrow. This will all be dropping at the normal global time, which is 7:30 AM for me, which I believe is like 11:30 PM PST on Wednesday evening if you're in the Pacific time, or very early in the morning on Thursday morning if you are on Eastern time. But we are going to be getting 3 LR EZA'S, so I am putting out team building guides for those later on today, so do keep an eye out for those. And then of course we do have the other big special bonus incoming as well, so we should be getting a lot of stones tomorrow. We're going to talk about the EZA'S here first very quickly, and then talk about the bonus stones a little bit afterwards, so stay tuned for that one. But do hit the like button on the video, subscribe to the channel if you are new around here. We are on the road to 30k subs. We are already halfway between 28 and 29k, so shout out to everybody who's come out and shown love to the channel during the anniversary. It is very much appreciated. So we're going to start off with the EZA for physical Golden Frieza and 17. These guys got an insane EZA when you consider that on release, I feel like nobody liked this unit. Like, they just were not good. I pulled both of the Universe 7 LRs in part 2 of the 6th anniversary, and then aside from doing like initial showcase videos for them, I feel like I just never used them again after that. So these EZA'S are like textbook what an EZA should be, taking an old terrible unit and then making them good, right? So these guys lead Universe Survival Saga or join forces for 4 key and 160. The leader skill's not great, but it is what it is, right, for a yellow coin LR. But their super attacks massively raise attack for 1 turn and colossal damage to the enemy, and then their 18 key greatly raise attack and defense for 1 turn, mega colossal damage, and greatly lowers attack and defense. So the lowering attack is obviously very good. Like, there are some events now where that can still be relevant. Greatly raising attack and defense, obviously good. And then the interesting thing about their 12 key is, whilst they don't raise defense, they massively raise attack, which is a 100% attack boost. So every additional super that they get is giving them a massive boost up in attack. And then their passive is attack and defense 177, key +7, and reduce damage received by 50% for 1 turn from the entry turn. So on their very first turn, 50% damage reduction and 7 key. They get 2 additional attacks, each of which has a high chance to become a super. Then they launch an additional attack and great chance of performing a crit when HP is 77% or less. So straight away on turn 1, 50% damage reduction, 7 key, 2 additional attacks that both have a 50% chance to become a super. And then if you're at 77% or less HP, you get a guaranteed additional attack, and they have 70% chance to crit. Right, then they get key 1 up to 7, plus an additional attack and defense 11% up to 77, so both obviously 7 stacks, with each attack performed. Now bear in mind it's attack, so even if their additionals don't become supers, they're still getting these buffs. Then they get an additional key 1 up to 5 and attack and defense 20 up to 100% with each super attack performed. So of course, if they do a super attack, they're getting this buff and this first buff as well, because they're doing an attack, right? So their first attack of the turn, when they first appear, is going to be a super. That's giving them 31% extra attack and defense and 2 key. Then their additional, if they do an additional normal, they're still going to get the 11%, but if they do an additional super, that's an additional 31% and 2 key. And bear in mind, they can do 2 additional supers from their passive, they can do an additional super from the hidden potential system, and then if you are at 77% or less HP, you get a guaranteed additional super. And then the great thing for them as well, chance of performing a crit 17% and damage reduction 17%, within the same turn with each attack performed. So on the first turn, they have 50% damage reduction anyway. You get their first super attack, they straight away go up to 67%. Then it's each attack performed. So they will always do a minimum of 3 attacks every turn, because even if their additionals don't become supers, they still do 3 attacks, which means they're always getting, after they've attacked, 51% crit chance and damage reduction. So on turn 1, it means after they've attacked, they're actually invincible, because they have 101%, well, they can still take double digits, but they have 101% damage reduction. And then on every turn after that, even if they're only doing 3 attacks, they have 51%. But depending how much additional you have in the hidden potential, chances are they're going to get a 4th attack as well. And whether it's a super or not, that's going to mean they're at 68% damage reduction. And of course, if you have the 77% or less HP, they get another attack, and that puts them up to 85. So these guys are absolutely ridiculous. Like, they can have great defense as well as having a lot of damage reduction. And then their active skill, which can be used after they've done 4 or more super attacks, which if you get really lucky with the additionals and the hidden potential, you could get that on turn 1, gives them key 7, 77% defense, and performs crits guaranteed for 1 turn. So these guys don't need any crit in the hidden potential. You basically just want to give them a decent bit of additional so they can get that 4th attack off consistently, and then I would probably just put the rest into dodge. But these guys are very, very good. Then we have the Team Universe 7. So these guys are a Reps of Universe 7 lead for 4 key and 170, or Super Int types 4 key and 100%. Their super attacks are Mega Colossal damage to the enemy, raise allies attack and defense by 30%, and chance of performing a crit by 7% for 2 turns. And then their 12 key is massively raise attack for 1 turn, colossal damage, and raise allies attack and defense by 30% for 1 turn. So if you get their 18 key super and then they do an additional 12 key super, you've raised allies attack and defense on that 1 turn for 60%, as well as giving them 7% crit chance. And then all the allies on the next rotation have 30% attack and defense and 7% crit chance. So that's really, really good. They get attack and defense 177, key 1 up to 5, and then reduced damage received 7% up to 35, and chance to crit 7% up to 35 per Reps of Universe 7 ally on the team. It does include them, so you need 5 allies in total in order for them to have the full buff. So obviously you can have 1 non-Reps of Universe 7 on the team and then still get the full buff, and the friend of course as well. If you have the friend as a Reps of Universe 7 character, then you can have 2 non-Reps of Universe 7 characters on the team. However, they do have some other buffs that rely on Reps of Universe 7 rotation. So additional attack and defense 77%, additional damage reduction 17%, and an additional chance to crit 17% when there are 5 or more Reps of Universe 7 allies on the team. So again, that's fine. Randomly change key spheres of a certain type int excluded to rainbow when HP is 77% or less once only. Plus an additional 77% attack and defense when key is 17 or more. Plus an additional 77% attack and defense, and launches an additional super attack when key is 22 or more, and then an additional 3 key per rainbow key sphere obtained. So they make rainbow orbs and get 4 key from each rainbow orb. Then they give key +1 and attack and defense 7% for all allies self-excluded, and 7% crit chance per key sphere, rainbow key sphere obtained. So these guys make rainbow orbs, get tons of buffs from the rainbow orbs, including extra key, as well as giving all the allies extra buffs. And then as long as you're at 22 key, they get a whole bunch of extra attack and defense. They get damage reduction, they get an additional super attack. So these guys can be really, really good. And those rainbow orbs, like, they create them themselves. They can set themselves up for some very nice rotations. And then they have an active skill when facing one enemy whose HP is 50% or less, if there are 5 or more Reps of Universe 7 allies on the team, with 2 or more of them attacking in the same turn. So this is the only thing I was saying about the full restriction for the Reps of Universe 7 team. You could technically run 2 non-Reps allies on the team, but then to use their active skill, you have to make sure you have a full Reps of Universe 7 rotation. And then it is an attack, it's a key blast, it does greatly raise attack temporarily, ultimate damage to the enemy, and all allies key +7 for 1 turn. So on that team build now for the Universe 7 team, which is basically like all LRs, having that 7 key, you're pretty much going to guarantee everyone on that turn is getting a 24 key super. So these guys are really, really good. I think Golden Frieza and 17 are better, but these guys are very, very good as well. And then of course the big surprise, because we kind of expected, I mentioned of course in previous videos and stuff, potentially getting these 2 guys at the end of the anniversary, but we're also getting the TEQ Jiren EZA, which I suppose now that TEQ UI Goku has come out kind of makes a bit more sense, because he is part of the Tanabata content on JP. It's weird for him to get his EZA on global now though, because obviously AGL Jiren isn't out, Topo isn't out, Dispo, obviously the banner unit from Goku's banner, is out, but bit interesting. His leader skill Universe 11 or Universe Survival Saga 3 key 170%. His super attacks, the 12 key greatly raises attack and defense for 1 turn, colossal damage greatly lowers defense, and then the 18 key massively raises attack and defense for 1 turn, mega colossal damage, and massively lowers defense with a high chance to stun. And then he is just basically big numbers. He was always when he first released, the like Unga Bunga caveman unit. Attack and defense 300%. Reduced damage received by 30% for 1 turn from the character's entry turn. So turn 1, 30% damage reduction. Additional attack and defense 100% and guards all attacks if HP is 40% or more. So as long as HP is 40% or more, tons of stats and guard, really, really good. If you're below 40%, which let's face it, can happen in some of these difficult events, then obviously that could be a little bit of a risk. But obviously still very good. If HP is 80% or less at the start of the turn, starting from the 5th turn, from his entry turn, or if HP is 40% or less at the start of the turn, he gets an additional 200% attack and defense starting from that turn. So I guess the good thing is if you do drop to 40% or less HP, you lose the guard, but then you get this massive buff. He gets key 3 with each attack received up to 11, launches an additional super attack starting from the turn in which he receives his 3rd attack, attacks effective against all types, gets a crit when the enemy is an attack down, defense down, or stunned, and then disables the enemy's attack action once within the turn when key is 24. So as long as he has 24 key, he will always action break with his 18 key super, which is really useful. And then he has an active skill, can be activated after he's received 5 attacks, attack and defense 30%, all enemies attack and defense minus 30%, and stuns all enemies for 1 turn. So just a big buff. Active skill buffs are multiplicative, so that gives him a huge buff. He will hit like an absolute truck on that turn. He's really not very complicated at all in terms of his kit. He's just big numbers. He can hit really hard. Just unfortunately, it's weird him getting his EZA this early on global, because it feels like he doesn't really have a true home yet. Like, you can run him on the Universe Survival Saga team with a bunch of these Universe 7 LRs, but we really need the Topo and the Jiren for this guy to truly shine, the AGL Carnival Jiren, but he's still a very, very strong EZA. So those 3 LR EZAs come out tomorrow. That's 99 stones you get from beating their 3 EZA events. Make sure you check out the team building guides, as I say, that will be going up later. But then the other big thing that we need to think about is this maximum thanks reward thing that has been announced in the news. Now, we always get this towards the end of the anniversary, where basically they just give out a bunch of stones. It's like top grossing, but without hitting top grossing. It usually has some kind of message that's just like, thanks for supporting the anniversary, like that kind of thing. And of course, this has varied in the past from anywhere between 50 and 100 stones. So with everything that's been going on at the moment, with Global rushing out these extra banners and all this kind of stuff, it's one of those things where I would absolutely not be surprised. Like, this as a minimum, I think, should be 100 stones. Now, of course, there is the possibility that it's going to be less. We have received 50 stones, I think, for stuff like this in the past. But I really do think 100 stones is kind of where to set an expectation. Now, of course, that's a dangerous term, because in the community, people often get their expectations high and then get disappointed when they're not met. But I think with everything going on, with how the anniversary's been, I think in terms of overall top grossing, I can't remember if we've gotten the same now or less compared to JP. So a lot of the time they use this thank you reward to kind of even out. Like, if JP got more top grossing stones overall, they give extra stones to Global in this like thank you bonus thing. So I'm hoping for 100 stones. I don't want to get people's hopes up too much, but I do think there is the possibility it could be more because of all the other content that's dropping so quickly on Global. But even if it is 100 stones, that means we have 200 stones worth of stuff coming tomorrow. The 3 EZAs should be very straightforward. Like I said, check out the guides. The maximum thanks, I mean, that's just a reward we just get straight away. So a decent chunk of stones coming, either to save for the future, or if you're someone who was blindsided by the release of TEQ Goku, and now you'll be able to get some extra stones to summon for him if you so choose. So let me know what you guys think down below. Are you looking forward to the EZAs? Make sure you check out the guides. We'll be doing those all live on stream tomorrow morning, so hopefully I will see you guys there. So that is going to be it for the video, guys. This has been the Masked Ningen. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel if you are new. Check out all the links down below, and I will see you all again soon. Have a good one.